She had counted it 3 times. $42.70. That was what was left in her bank account after rent, after the electric bill, after the bag of rice and the 2 cans of soup she had stretched across 4 days. $42.70 standing between her and nothing. But today was payday, and Elena Vasquez had worked every single hour she was owed. She just didn't, and 39. To know that someone had already decided those hours didn't, and 39. To matter. Hey everyone, I am 39, and 39, in faith. And today I want to share the story of Elena Vasquez, a 24-year-old woman who believed that if you kept your head down, worked hard, and never caused trouble, the world would eventually be fair to you. This is a story about the moment that belief was set on fire, literally, and about the man who watched it burn and couldn't 39ts stay silent. If stories like this hit you somewhere deep, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss one. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever worked somewhere that made you feel invisible, like your efforts simply didn't end 39? T count? Tell me below. Because Elena and 39's story is going to remind you that someone is always watching. Elena grew up in Tucson, Arizona, the oldest of 3 siblings, raised by a father who worked 2 jobs and a mother who stretched every dollar like it was made of rubber. She learned early that life did not give you things. You showed up. You earned them. By the time she was 17, she had a part-time job at a laundromat after school. By 19, she was helping cover her youngest brother and 39 school supplies. That was just who Elena was. So when she was hired as an administrative coordinator at Voss Premier Properties, a luxury real estate firm owned by the very loud, very wealthy Gerald Voss, she let herself feel something she hadn't, and 39, in a long time: hope. The salary wasn't, and 39t impressive, but it was steady, and Elena Vasquez could do a lot with steady. Gerald Voss, however, was not a steady kind of man. He was the kind of man who arrived 40 minutes late to his own meetings and expected everyone to pretend he was early. The kind of man who sent emails at midnight demanding responses before sunrise. The kind of man who once made a receptionist cry in the middle of the office and then asked her to bring him a coffee before she had finished wiping her face. Elena had seen all of it. She had watched Gerald reduce grown professionals to silence with a single look. She had learned to read the room the moment he walked in, tight jaw, phone in hand, eyes scanning for something to criticize. She had learned to be invisible. For 8 months, it worked. Then October arrived. It had been the worst month of Elena and 39's professional life. Gerald had fired the office manager without warning and dropped every single one of that woman and 39's responsibilities onto Elena and 39's desk without a single conversation, no title change, no pay adjustment, no acknowledgement, just a sticky note on her monitor that said, "Handle it." And she did. She came in early. She stayed late. She managed vendor contracts, rescheduled client meetings, coordinated a property showcase for 32 guests, and somehow kept every plate spinning while Gerald Voss floated through the office taking credit for all of it. On the last Friday of October, the office received their paychecks in printed envelopes, old-fashioned, the way Gerald insisted. Elena held hers and felt a quiet satisfaction settle in her chest. She had earned this one more than any before it. Every late night was in this envelope, every skipped lunch. Every moment she had swallowed her frustration and just kept going. She was walking to her car in the parking structure beneath the building when she heard him. Vasquez. Gerald Voss was leaning against a silver Bentley, jacket open, sunglasses on despite the fact that they were underground. 2 other employees, Marcus from accounting and Diane from sales, stood nearby. Frozen in that particular way people freeze when they sense something bad is about to happen. But Don and 39, tinier, yet know how bad. Elena stopped, turned. "Anquat? Sir? Anquat?" He pushed off the car and walked toward her slowly, hands in his pockets, wearing the smile she had come to recognize as dangerous. "Anquat. I and 39. Ving been hearing things. Anquat," he said. "Anquat. People saying you and 39. Veem been telling clients you and 39. Read the one managing their accounts. That true? And quat. Elena blinked. And quad Diane 39. Vin handling the coordination, yes. Since Patricia left and quad, you and 39. Ray a coordinator, and quat. He said the word like it tasted sour, and quat. You and 39. Race 39. Ben, manage. You don't and 39. You represent. You answer phones and you schedule things, and quat. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell the expensive cologne. End quote. I want to make something very clear to you about what your contribution to this company is actually worth. End quote. He reached out. He took the envelope from her hand before she even realized she had loosened her grip. He tore it open, looked at the check, folded it once between his fingers, and then, slowly, deliberately, enjoying every single second, he reached into his jacket pocket and produced a lighter. Anquat. Gerald Anquat. Marcus said from somewhere behind him. And quote. Don in 39 T and quote. Gerald didn't in 39 T even turn around. The flame was small, pale orange against the concrete gray of the parking structure. It caught the corner of the check in less than a second. Elena watched her month burn. She did not cry. She wanted to. The burning sensation behind her eyes was almost unbearable. But she stood completely still and watched the paper blacken and curl and fall in ash to the ground. And she did not make a sound, because something inside her understood that making a sound was exactly what he wanted. Gerald Voss dropped what was left, turned back toward his car, and quote, know your place, and quote, he said. And that, in 39, a yoos, when a voice came from the shadows near the elevator bay. And quote, hold on, and quat. He hadn't, and 39. T been trying to be noticed. Captain James Merritt, retired, 12 years in the United States Army, 2 tours overseas. Currently the head of building security for the property management company that leased his very parking structure, had been walking to his vehicle after a double shift. He was carrying a paper cup of cold coffee and thinking about nothing except getting home. He had seen the whole thing. James Merritt was not a large man in the way people expected soldiers to be. He was average height, quietly built, with a face that didn't insert 19 broadcast emotion easily. But when he walked toward Gerald Voss, something about the way he moved made Gerald Ralph 39 smirk slowly dissolve. James stopped between them. He didn't, 39, T raise his voice. He barely raised his chin. And quote. That was her paycheck. And quote. Gerald in 39, jaw tightened. End quote. This is private property and you have no idea what you just end quote. And quote. I know exactly what I saw. And quote. James in 39's voice was level, calm in the way that only comes from having been in genuinely dangerous situations, and knowing this wasn't 39, bored of them. And quote. I also know that what you just did has a name. Wage theft, and I in 39. We got about 45 seconds of footage on the security system I manage that shows it clearly. Ain quote. Silence. Marcus from accounting had his hand over his mouth. Diane had taken out her phone. Gerald Voss opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Elena, looked at James, and quote. You don't, and 39, to know who I am. Quote, and quote. And quote, and 29, and to know who I am. And quote, I know exactly who you are, Mr. Voss. And quote. James reached into his back pocket, pulled out his wallet, and removed a folded stack of bills. He held them out to Elena without looking away from Gerald. End quote. That should cover what he burned. You can settle the rest through the labor board. I in 239. I'll be a witness. End quote. Elena stared at the money. End quote. Take it, end quote, James said quietly now, just to her. She took it. He turned back to Gerald Voss one last time. End quote. You should go, end quote. And Gerald Voss, the man who had made 30 people shrink, who had arrived in a Bentley and treated human beings like furniture, got in his car and left. Elena submitted her resignation the following Monday, along with a formal wage theft complaint to the Arizona Industrial Commission. James Merritt filed his witness statement the same afternoon. 3 weeks later, Boss Premier Properties lost two of its largest commercial contracts, both clients having caught wind of the incident after Diane and 39's footage was shared quietly among people in the industry. Gerald Voss did not issue a public statement. He didn't. And 39 T need to. The silence said, enough. Elena was hired within the month by a competing firm, one that had been watching her work for years from across the industry and had simply been waiting for her to be available. Her new title was Office Operations Manager. Her salary was 40% higher. She called her mother the night she got the offer. Neither of them spoke for a moment. They just stayed on the line together, letting it be real. James Merritt received a formal commendation from the Building in 39 Hall's Property Management Board. He said it wasn't in 39T necessary. He said he had just done what anyone should have done, maybe, but in that parking garage, with ash still on the ground and no one else saying a word, he was the only one who did. There's a version of the story where Elena Vasquez walks away quietly, where she absorbs the humiliation, counts her losses, and tells herself it in 39's fine. A lot of people live in that version because they don't, ain't time Murray, and Aminans too believe anyone is watching. Someone is always watching, and sometimes the person watching is someone who was never going to stay silent. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their dignity is not negotiable. Drop in the comments. Have you ever had someone stand up for you when you least expected it? Or been the person who stood up for someone else? I want to hear your story. Ian 39, mean, faith. And Ian Titter 39L. See you in the next one.